And didn't push it yet. I believe we're live streaming. It's good to have everybody with us tonight. I got a lot of buttons I have to push in here. I'm going to have to get some help back in here or something. It is good to have you with us tonight. We're looking forward to which episode is this tonight, Terry? Is this
13?
13.
It's probably going to get way on up there because I'm just taking my time.
Okay. Those of you listening by Power Faith Radio, we thank you so much for tuning this way tonight. And we hope you have your pen and pencils ready. Please, you'll see a new area over there on the app where you can just hit and send a question this way. And I've got it linked up to my Facebook page. So it'll now go, I won't have to keep jumping back from email. It'll go right over to my Facebook page. And if you're watching us or watching the recording through our two Facebook pages, Simple Walk and Banana Walk Fellowship, we thank you so much. And please comment, ask those questions. And on a Simple Walk, you can share those videos with all your social media platform. And it's sponsored tonight by Outreach Noah. You can find us a couple different ways. Go to YouTube, type in Outreach Noah. And while you're over there, just go ahead and subscribe to that channel. Hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. And you can email us. Just send an email to outreachnoah@gmail.com or go to our website, outreachnoah.com. Did I get all that in?
Yep.
Okay. Veronica said no. I try to move them around so I can remember them better. I don't know if I do very well at that, but I'm trying to move them around. So, Terry, would you like to take over? Huh?
You're streaming from?
Broadcasting from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee. You're listening to Power Faith Radio. I don't know how that sounds over there. Sounds good in my headphones. So I had to talk to my computer guy that works on helping me get the streams and everything set up on the radio stations and everything. And he asked me if I ever did any voiceovers. And when he first asked me that, I didn't know what he was talking about. And I said, voiceovers, do you think I need a voiceover? And he started laughing. He said, no, you can do it. So anyway, go ahead.
You're supposed to get Annie to do that for us sometime.
Now, I'm going to tell you what, she has a great radio voice. She used to do a lot, and we're going to get back and get her in here in the studio, so to speak, and do some more recording. Okay, Terry. Take it away.
That's when you finally decide whether you're going to retire or just play at it.
I know. I'm supposed to be semi-retired right now. But
you're just semi.
I haven't had a day off. I'm semi like I've added 16 wheels to my truck. Mm-hmm. And tomorrow I'm hand digging a water line. It's only 60 feet. I can do it, right?
You're not supposed to.
Well, I know that. Please tell my... No, I'm just kidding. Okay, Terry, go ahead.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you for again joining us here at our Outreach Noah class here tonight. Scotty, is my mic too hot? It just sounds hot in my headset.
I think it sounds okay over here. Does his mic sound okay? Sounds okay.
Yep, Owen.
Okay. All right. Generally, it's too low. Scotty says, "You're broke. You're broke." You got. I think maybe I've just got it up where it's supposed to be, and I'm not used to it. All right.
You can just talk with a regular voice, and everybody will hear you.
I am talking with my regular voice. But then again, my wife is always telling me to calm it down. I'm like, I am calm.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. All right. Greetings, everyone. And again, thank you for joining us again tonight. We are going to be hitting our 13th, I guess, episode in our book study of the Seven Gates of Righteous Knowledge. And no telling, that might be a 3-digit number by the time we get done with it, because I'm just going through it slowly and taking time for discussion instead of just doing a straight read through, taking some time to enjoy it and learn. We've been having some good discussions so far over the last few weeks. I told you, I think last week, was it last week or the week before? I can't remember now. I did get it uploaded on our website at outreachnoah.com. On our resource study page, it's got our list of resources on that page. I have down at the bottom that list of the weekly reading of Psalms 119, where it breaks it down on what you read each day, and that helps you read the psalm in 1 week instead of trying to read it through all at one time. I do have that finally posted on there for those who's interested. If you want to go over and just jot that down and copy.
The Georgia group said they went over there and got that.
Okay.
You mentioned that they went over and got that. So
yeah, I finally got that up. If a Jewish friend of mine, still got his card. He made 2000. I want to say 6 or 7, somewhere in there. When he made that, I still got a couple of them. He had made that he'd go out to different like things downtown that they were having, like block parties and stuff, and he'd hand them out for people who would be interested in it. And I saw that the other day. I was going through my drawer. I said, I need to put that on the website. So it's there for those interested. It's the weekly reading for Psalms 119. Scotty, well, let me greet everyone here in the Zoom room.
Go ahead.
Give Scotty a little bit more time to get ready. So of course we got Scotty. Scotty, you're going to have to get everything touchscreen, like, next generation. So you don't have to poke buttons. You just slide.
You'll see me over here doing this.
You go, whoop, I slid too far on that one. And he did that one night. It went dark. All of us. Yeah, it's fun. All in fun. Of course, Scotty, and then we got Ronald and Amuela, Bob, and then we've got our we call her our Roman. You're muted, Veronica. What do we call you now?
I'm trying to give you a hint. We're calling me a wandering goy.
The wandering goy.
A Noahide nomad.
There you go, Noahide nomad. You're in what, Nebraska tonight?
I don't know. Council Bluffs.
Okay.
Somewhere.
And tomorrow she'll be somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
So anyhow, safe travels.
Thank you.
And we got Work has joined us tonight from New Zealand, right?
Yeah, surely. In Hamilton.
Okay, good to have you. And then Wendell, thanks. And then is Harry you're from New Zealand as well?
You're muted, Harry. Unmute and let's.
Yeah, there I am. So yes, I am from New Zealand, from the South Island.
Okay, welcome.
And so this is my second time that I'm joining your session.
Well, you're New Zealand. We watch a lot of what's called Acorn TV that has British, New Zealand, Australian shows. My favorite show from New Zealand was 800 Words. I tell it to everybody. They got good shows over there. Yeah, it's good family show.
Yeah. Well, so, I'm actually quite lucky because Ronald helped me setting this up because I'm not very, very good with computers, but this way it's very easy to actually be able to join the meetings.
That's good. Well, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Then we have, of course, Scotty's better half. Miss Annie. And probably Pam's around there somewhere, his daughter.
She's sitting in there with her somewhere.
All right. You ready, Scotty?
I'm ready. Okay. We want to say we appreciate everybody that participated in our charity this Tzedakah time this week. And so we're going to get right into it and give Terry plenty of time to get into the text tonight. As always, in our Tzedakah time, we remember our mine and Terry's main teacher, Pesach and Sherbo, and they're in Sfat, Israel. And then we're remembering Robin Wade tonight. And then also we're giving tzedakah tonight for Clifford Hoole. We're giving tzedakah for Clifford tonight. Also for Joanna Flynn Wakeoff. We're giving tzedakah for Joanna tonight. And then also for Danielle Akins, giving tzedakah for Danielle Akins tonight. And she is a new Noahide that lives here. I see her from time to time. So she's actually got to go out and eat with her family a couple of times. So we're giving tzedakah for her tonight. Also, Wendy Shepherd. I don't guess, Ronald, you've heard anything Wendy Shepherd, anything about her?
No, not at the present. It took a
Okay.
while. It wouldn't click through to unmute.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Also, Amuela, this is your dollar. Somebody always sends in $1 for you, so this is your dollar going into the tzedakah time. And they also send one in for Thomas Schaus. We're still looking for Thomas to get his internet up and running. And then also for Veronica Port in her traveling endeavors. So giving tzedakah for Veronica tonight. Also for Philip Hayes, Terry, you're saying you're going to go see your dad pretty soon. How's your dad doing?
Yeah, we've got plans, Hashem willing. We're going to go out Tuesday. Going to be leaving Tuesday, the week of Thanksgiving, heading out there, and then probably heading back that Friday out to Oklahoma. I didn't get a chance to talk to him this weekend, but I did talk to my brother a little bit, so I had to confirm, our time. We changed our time when we were going to get out there and everything. So I called him, and he just told me, he says he's gaining energy because he's eating, but he feels like he's gone backwards in his really in his strength. He can't, he still has to have someone get him up and stand him up out of bed, but he can't stand very long. He doesn't even walk. So, just, I guess, taking it one day at a time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to continue to give tzedakah for Philip Hayes. Also giving tzedakah for Betty Given tonight. And also for William Lyons, giving tzedakah for William Lyons tonight. And also Warwick Marshall. Does anybody know who Warwick Marshall is? Giving tzedakah for you. Warwick, it's good to have you with us tonight. And also Ronald, how you doing? We got you on our tzedakah list still. You look, pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, things are well at the moment, and getting
Great.
closer to my appointment with the surgery team. So hopefully by the end of the year, everything will be sorted out. But at the present, I'm doing okay. Good.
Great. And also giving Thanksgiving tzedakah, and I'm not going to say it, but we're giving Thanksgiving tzedakah for Mary Parsons. I'm not going to say because
you're not going to say it.
I'm not going to say because she can shovel snow now. So, but anyway, we're giving Thanksgiving. I really feel Hashem has brought, really blessed Wendell and Mary Parsons. Now, on our blessed memory list tonight, if I've got this correct, Murray Mason. Did I pronounce that correct, Amuela? Blessed memory tzedakah for Murray Mason, and also for John Every Culver Jr. We're giving blessed memory tzedakah for him as well. Would you help us pray tonight? Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For you are a God who hears prayers and supplications. Our King, do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right, Terry, are you? And Christopher came in tonight, so good to see Chris tonight. So, all right, good to see you, Chris. I seen you unmuted. Say hello.
Hello, how are you?
We're
I
good.
was
We're good.
a little late than never, you know?
You know what? I use that same motto every time I pull up to a table with food on it. It's better late than never. So, all right.
Exactly.
All right, Terry, I'm turning it all over to you.
All right. Greetings and good evening again. Tonight, we're going to get back into our book here just in a second, but I had some stuff thinking about this week. I kind of wanted to kind of take a little bit of a rabbit trail here at the beginning, and I hope it won't lead us over into the bushes too far. But it kind of lines up with what I'm going to talk about here at first. It kind of goes into a little bit about what we're going to get into tonight in our book. So I wanted to discuss this a little bit forward. I know some have heard me talk about this in the past, and there's a passage that came to my mind this week that I thought I'd like to share this and kind of share it from. And it's a passage strictly for Israel only, but there's something that we can understand from our side of the fence on that. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about, see, our worldview. We always hear the terms of worldview, but everyone's worldview is influenced with the nation that they live in, the geography within that nation that they live in, especially like here in the States. I mean, especially we have, Scotty and I are down here in the South, Appalachia area, and Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama. We have, certain worldviews of things. If you go up north, New York City, Illinois, Indiana, if you go up to Michigan, anything like that, their worldview is going to be impacted by the region they live in. Same thing with the Midwest and the West and the all the way to California. They won't list California. No, I'm just kidding. But your worldview is impacted by all these areas. It's impacted by your religion. It's impacted by your politics, if you're a political person. But our worldview is impacted by all these. But there's one worldview that, the rest, the majority of us really has not ever had. We've never had this worldview, especially in the West, and especially in the religious West. And that's what we call the Torah worldview. You've heard me talk about how this is not a religion. It's not even religious, even though we've been talking about the soul, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that tonight. We've been talking about divine providence. We've talked about prayer, but all of this really has nothing to do with religion at all. In the Hebrew, and I've explained this before, but in the Hebrew, there is no word for religion. There's no word for religion. That is a word that's come out of the other languages of the nations. And even its understanding, because even with the Jews, what they have is not a religion. They have a covenant with God, and they have certain mandates by God to follow. 613 commandments. We have the 7 categorical commandments, which we've talked about, and going to be talking about more and what we're given in the nations, but it's not a religion. The closest word in Hebrew that would be considered religion is the word dat or das in Ashkenaz. And that word is the word knowledge. And so from a Torah worldview, when you look at the aspect of religion, it's not religion, it's the knowledge. It's the knowledge of. So if you look at the different religions of the world, from a Torah worldview, it's the knowledge of Christianity, the knowledge of Buddhism, the knowledge of Islam, even the knowledge of atheism. It's not the religion; it's the knowledge. It's the knowledge of those things, and when you begin to understand more into the Torah, you'll understand how that is more so. It's the knowledge of things, and so I wanted to share something with you because this is what we've been in this chapter we've been in. We're talking about we're getting into about the knowledge of God, not the religion. God didn't create religion; man created religion. God, we have the knowledge of God. We're going to get into a little bit more of that tonight as we continue from where we went last week. But I just want to share with you a Torah view of things. And we can glean from our side of the fence from what this is telling us. Now, this is a commandment to the king of Israel, whoever sits on the throne of Israel, King David, King Solomon. This is a commandment that the Creator gave the king of Israel. It's found in Deuteronomy chapter 16. Verses 18 through 20. I mean, there's more to it than that, but this is what I want to cover, considering where we're at. In verse 18, in Deuteronomy 16, it says, make sure it's 16 and not 17. Nope, it's 17. Yes, Deuteronomy 17, sorry. Deuteronomy 17, 18 through 20. It says, it shall be that when he, the king, sits on the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself 2 copies of this Torah in a book from before the Kohanim, the Levites. It shall be with him, and he shall read from it all of his days of his life, so that he will learn to fear Hashem, his God, to observe all his words of this Torah and the decrees and these decrees to perform them, so that his heart does not become haughty over his brethren and not turn from the commandments right or left, so that he will prosper, that he will prolong the years of his kingdom, he and his sons amid Israel. The king had to have 2 copies of the Torah. He had to have one that he kept in the treasure house of his home, or you want to call it a palace or whatever. But he had to have one he kept at home. Then he had another one, a second one, that he had to keep with him wherever he went, even into battle. He had to have the Torah with him so that he would keep his actions in line with what God's will was. Even in battle, they had rules. Like one of the rules of battle for Israel. Some people don't even know this. They are not permitted to destroy any fruit trees. That is a commandment of Israel when they're at war in battle. They are not permitted to destroy a fruit tree. Just one of many. But see, the king himself had to have 2 Torahs, so that no matter where he was at, whether he was at home or whether he was out doing the king's business in the kingdom or even at battle, he had to keep that Torah there. He had to read it every day to keep himself in line with the will of God, that he would fear God. Had nothing to do with religion, had everything to do that he made sure that he was being ethically and morally pure as a king. And so, see, this has nothing to do, the Torah has nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with knowing the Creator, knowing his will for us as human beings. And that's what we have here is, in our book is called, that we're going through, that Rabbi Weiner wrote. It says the 7 gates of righteous knowledge, spiritual knowledge and faith for righteous Gentiles. So I just kind of wanted to go over that again, that because I know we've been covering a lot about the soul and a lot about, divine providence, that this is just normal, everyday things that we should experience as people who walk with God. I saw this quote while I was waiting for my wife to get off work today, and I'm like, I got to hurry up and get home. I need to write this down. And I'm probably going to print this meme off and hang it up here in my study now, because I really like it. This is by Rabbi Moshe of Kovrin. It says, some thinks it's difficult to reach the level of an angel. However, what is really difficult is to reach the level of a human being. This is what our life is about, is reaching that level of being the human that the Creator blew his breath into in Genesis. Becoming that human that we're supposed to be. And so this week, I don't know, that was just on my mind. I wanted to kind of start with that this week. Any discussion on that, Scotty, before I move on? Are we good? It's just, when I thought about that passage, I'd forgotten about it. When I thought of that passage, that the king had to carry 2 Torah scrolls. He had to keep 2 of them with him, one at home and one wherever he went. And we were talking about the other day, is this, in Psalms 16, that's where I got the 16 from, that we've been discussing last week. We're talking about that King David said he placed Hashem before his eyes all the time. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, that having Hashem before us continually. And that just lines up with that commandment that he gave the king of Israel, to have him before him, continually. And that's what we do when we meditate and we ponder and we study what we're required to live by, because it's more than just murder is bloodshed, theft is, taking your neighbor's shovel. Those are just baseline, things. It's more than that. It's how we control our attitudes, how we control our anger, how we live morally and ethically with every human being. And it touches every aspect of our life. And that's what we've been learning about. Before I get into my book, or our book, however you want to put it, there was a question that did come about in something that we discussed last week. There was a question in one of our chat rooms that I caught this week, and I wanted to answer it. I discussed the prayer of the second prayer of the Shemona Esrei that Israel prays 3 times a day, written by the men of the Great Assembly, the 120 men who consisted of Ezra, Nehemiah, Jeremiah. Most of all the prophets were involved in this process when Israel came out of the Babylonian captivity and came back to the land. And we were talking about it. And I found my book. I have a book that's on the 18 benedictions. And I'm going to read the whole thing to you. But the question was, and this was a really good question, and we're actually going to get into this because it lines up right exactly where we're going to start at tonight, where we left off last week. The question was, how can God have faith with those who lie in the dust? Our souls don't lie in the dust, ? Which there is a possibility for that. And we're going to see King David. He talks about that tonight. And then what we were talking about, where this question comes from, is we ended last week. If you see our videos from last week, this is where we talking about the faith of the Creator. Is when I discovered this verse, and actually one time I could read it in the Hebrew when I was studying to join the Hebrew nation. My first rabbi in New York taught me how to read Hebrew, and actually I could read it, but I couldn't translate, but I could read it. And Hebrew's not that difficult. If you're interested in Hebrew, you're speaking to a Tennessee boy. David, who was 70 years old, had me reading sentences, enunciating sentences in a week. So if this old hillbilly down here can do it, anyone can. I'm out of practice because I don't do it every day. I used to do it every day. But the prayer goes like this in the English. You are eternally mighty, my master. The resurrector of the dead are you, abundantly able to save. He makes the wind blow. He makes the rain descend. He sustains the living with kindness, resurrects the dead with abundant mercy, supports the fallen and heals the sick, releases the confined, and maintains his faith with those who are asleep in the dust. Who is like you, O Master of mighty deeds? Who is comparable to you, O King? Who causes death and restores life and makes salvation sprout? And you are faithful to resurrect the dead. Blessed are you, Hashem, who resurrects the dead. It's properly named Gabor Adonai, the might of God. An amazing, amazing prayer that the prophets and the other men of the Great Assembly wrote to help Israel. And the reason why this was done was Israel in 70 years was beginning to lose their language. They were even losing the ability to even pray. And so they came together and they designed this. It's called the prayer in your Jewish communities. This is the prayer. And it's very, very, there's a lot of detail, very important things that goes on around this prayer that's very, very holy. And not just this particular one, but all of the 18 of them. But when I read this, that he maintains his faith with those who are asleep in the dust. And this, with the question, you know, how can God have faith with those who lie in the dust? And it's so eloquently stated right here by one of the Torah scholars. It's subtitled, "Not One Molecule Will Be Lost." Rav Avogador Miller observes that God will maintain his faith to resurrect even those whose graves are lost, whose bodies have been disintegrated. Some bodies have drowned in the ocean. Some were eaten by beasts. Some were entirely burnt and their ashes scattered without identification. Nevertheless, the Creator is faithful. He keeps account of every molecule of dust and ash and will collect them all despite the passage of 1,000 years. Again, Scotty, anything before I move on? Because I know that's kind of important. All right. Let me arrange my books. I've got me an extra table. Scotty knows me and my books. I brought me a table in here this morning, so I have extra room. Oh. By the way, I had a couple more, but I decided not to. I've been reading in the Proverbs. I found some stuff that was really cool that's good tonight. I think I'm going to do a separate video on that because it deals with character traits that we have been talking about. Scotty, what you going to say? It looks like you're going to say something. All righty. Here we go. We left off last week on page 34. And we had just started where it says 16:10, Psalm 16:10. So we're going to pick back up right there. In 16:10, it says, "For you will not abandon my soul to the netherworld, neither will you deliver your pious to see the pit of Gehenna. This is your way, God of truth and kindness, for you will not abandon those who trust in you to cast them away from you. Rather, you will show them counsel and give a way in situation by which they can rely on you and continue to trust in you." See, it's not just religious to trust in the Creator. I mean, even Noah, what was the religion of Noah? He was righteous, he was moral, and he walked with God. And he trusted in the Creator. Now, I've got some books back here on Noah that's in the Hebrew tradition that teaches. We know, was it 120 years? Somebody said to build the ark. That he did. It wasn't the whole time that he actually built. It only took him, like, I'm trying to remember, something like 59 years to actually build it. So what did he do before? He gathered and planted a forest. He planted a forest. He tended that forest until the trees became, and I think actually it says cedars. And then the cedars, when they matured, then he harvested them. And then he worked the wood into his planks and boards that he needed. So the whole time was planting, nurturing, harvesting, and then building. And he did all of that with just obeying At the time, the 6 commandments that God had given, because the commandment of not eating meat taken from a living animal hadn't been given yet. That came after the flood. But that's how he lived. And we're going to look at something here a little bit, because when we get into the next passage or so of I think it's in verse 11 when we get to it. When I was studying it, how there seems to be a mental connection with what happened with Noah at the flood. But verse 10, where it says, "You will not abandon my soul to the lower world." Ibn Ezra and Roddick has this to say about this passage. It says, having explained why his, make sure I'm not going too far. Yeah. Having explained why his flesh rests in the previous verse, David now explains why his soul is elated by the prospect of death. For although my body will be deposited into the earth, my soul will not follow it in that direction, to sink down into the grave of the lower world. You will certainly lift up my soul to a place of your glory. So remember, the king had to have 2 Torah scrolls. It was his obedience to the commandments and his trust in God on his mercy and his faith in David and his observance of the commandments, that David knew that his flesh and his soul was at rest. Had nothing to do with any kind of belief or if David knew that he was walking in his commandments. And he knew that when he was walking in his commandments and he put his trust in the Creator, that he wasn't going to allow his soul to be deposited into the lower worlds. The wicked, their souls will deposit. Or why would David even have this to say? They will go, the wicked will, their souls will deposit into the lower world, where the righteous souls will be elevated. And we learn that, and in the Rambam, the great Torah scholar and sage, the Rambam, who has a lot to say about the nations in his writing of the Mishnah Torah, which is a canonization of pretty much everything the Torah has to say. It's called the Mishnah Torah. And he's talking about the nations, and he says the nations, those are the nations who accept upon themselves these 7 mitzvot, these 7 commands, which are categorical. And they set out to observe them according to their ways. And they do this because the Creator had commanded them through Moses. They are called the pious of the nations and will have a share in the world to come. And it's just like David right here. David knows his share is there because he was walking in with the covenant of God. Well, we have our covenant. It comes from Genesis chapter 9, and the observance of these commandments. And there's a lot more to the rainbow, and I won't get into that tonight, but there's a lot more to the rainbow that explains our covenant with God that he made with Noah and his descendants at this time. And when you're walking in that covenant with God, then you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about no religion. There's no the Torah has nothing actually to say about, some of the spiritual stuff that goes on in other religions. It has everything. If you're living this life according to the way you're supposed to be, you don't need to worry about anything. And that doesn't mean righteous doesn't mean perfect, because righteous people fall. We know that. King Solomon says they fall 7 times. But it's your attitude and it's your intent behind doing that.
Terry, can I add something right there if you don't mind?
Go ahead while I'm over here to Rabbi Hirsch's.
I had an interesting conversation this week, and things come to your mind as you're talking to people, and so that there was this thing that just hit this, what I'm about to tell you, just hit me in the face. And when I got back in my vehicle, I had to write it down, and then I had to record it, afraid that tomorrow
You'd have a senior moment.
I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be able to read what I said. But as I was talking to this person about making mistakes, and of course, you know, in their religious aspects, a mistake just throws
Their
you
religious
out.
worldview.
Yeah. And it dawned on me while I was having this conversation with them. You know, when I didn't do a lot of tests when I was in school. I wasn't a very good student. I'm sorry to say. When I got out of school, I had to teach myself how to study. But I remember taking tests through the years, like taking tests about electrical and plumbing and all those things. You know, the questions that I can remember today is the questions that I got wrong then, because I had to go back and restudy those and find the correct answer. And because I got it wrong then, I still remember those questions today and the correct answer. But the other questions that I knew, I don't even remember them being on the test. But the ones that I got incorrect, I can still remember them today because I had to go back and take the test again and present the correct answer. So I just thought I'd throw that in.
That kind of reminds me a little bit like what Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, he taught. With every descent is preparation for the next ascent. It's just like the analogy of a baseball pitcher. Before he can throw that ball at 90 miles an hour to his catcher, what's he got to do? You got to take the ball back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You have to pull that ball back. There has to be a descent before there can be an ascent. And this was really one of the amazing teachings he gave. Your present descent, your present fall is at a higher level than your last ascent. It's kind of a little bit to think about there.
Yeah.
Your present fall, let's say you messed up. Your present failure is higher than your last success. See, this is Torah worldview, not the religious worldview. This is the Torah worldview. And that's why some people, it rubs them raw a little bit when you hear some things being taught out of Torah, but that's because there's a Torah worldview that is not like the rest of the world. Yeah. And that's part of what we're learning is the Torah worldview and our part of it for the nations. Rabbi Hirsch says about verse 10, he says, "For you will not let my soul be buried together with my flesh. You will not allow the pious, that man whose life was filled with the devotion to you, sink into complete oblivion. The spirit of him who has sought your presence in such unselfish love shall not rot in the grave." The various concrete ways in which the pious men prove that they are pious in the various situations of their life may bring that which imparts to them this character of piety and awe is solely that one godlike, God-seeking trait that is equally present in everyone and that is united with the physical shell of the body, the only purpose of fulfilling man's calling on earth. The earthly remains lie down in the grave confidently, awaiting their next call from God, while he lifts his soul, which has lived in the body beyond the grave, to his heights. verse 11. Make known unto me the path of pure life, that I may be sated with the joy of your presence, with the bliss of your right hand forever. You make known to those who trust in you the way to their service, since they have faith in you. See, he makes known the way that we ought to serve him, because he makes this known to them because they love him. And granted, now we don't have a commandment to love God. The commandment that says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul, that's a commandment to Israel. We do not have that commandment. Our commandment is not to, is idolatry, the prohibition of idolatry. So loving God for us is voluntarily. They're the priestly nation. They have a set way of life. It says they have a way of life that is for them because of their position in the world as the priestly nation. And we have our way of life as the Gentile nations, the non-Jewish nations, because we are, again, to settle the earth and to build ethical and moral societies and set up just laws and just court systems so that justice and these laws should be observed and justice shall reign throughout the world. We haven't done a very good job at that, by the way. But that is our path. That's what our path is supposed to be. That's what we're learning about. He says, you will make known to those who trust in you the way of their service, since they have faith in you and your providence, which is constantly over them. Therefore, they turn to you and ask for counsel and guidance, and you inform them of the correct path in life. Okay, like Israel, they have, when it comes to prayer, they have set times of prayer. We do not. They have a commandment of prayer. We do not. Our largest obligation of prayer is to pray unto the Creator when we have a need. The rabbis teach us that when you have a need, that is when your obligation of prayer. You know, you're in a situation, your health, you know, in health, or maybe in your finances, or just in anything, you have an obligation to reach out to the Creator in that need. That is it's not a commandment to us, it's an obligation. And there's even been some rabbis saying that they somewhat jealous of that. Now, Rabbi Nachman taught about Hibbitibut. I can't say it. Hibbitibut. Is that how you say it, Scotty? It's a tongue twister word, but it basically means personal prayer. Rabbi Nachman taught that it was a good level was to be able to get out and go into the field for an hour and to pray to the Creator. And it takes a while to do that, but to get out in the field to pray, because he said, when you go out into the field, you go out into the forest, and when you're praying, that the creation around you is uplifting your prayers. So right here is another need that we have. It says, therefore, in turn, you ask for counsel and guidance. That is a need for us. Godly counsel, godly guidance is a need. One of the needs we need to be praying for is in asking, you know, now that is our obligation as those of the nations, is to reach out to God in the time of need. We don't have to be praying to him 3 and 4 and 5 times a day. Now, some people, they have that ability to where their whole day is a communication with God. And that's great. Like for me, I may not, for me, I'm in my way of life, how my life is developed, I may not necessarily go into prayer with God, you know, except when I need things that I'm supposed to. But every time I study, every time I'm studying, because I love to study, we don't have a commandment to study, but I just do it because I love it. When I'm studying, like this book we're laying here in front of us, and I'm learning this stuff, this is like prayer for me, because as I'm reading this, I'll actually be talking to the Creator about what I'm reading. You know, you read the Psalms. That's a great way, you know, reading the Psalms. We can gain a lot of help in the Psalms there. It says, this constant awareness by which a person connects to God does not reside only in his intellectual knowledge. Rather, if it is truly internalized, it will spread to his heart as well. To feel God in his heart, to yearn for him, and to love and fear him. This is a natural order of how an influence of one person's character progresses. A matter that a person truly thinks to be crucial progressively conquers in his inner nature, beginning with the constant thought and intellectual contemplation until it conquers the feeling of his heart, and then his speech, and then his deeds. It is up to a person's choice that the main concern which influences him should be his desires for closeness to God in all his ways. And the way we draw close to God. Now, some people, well, I want to do this because I'm close to God, or I feel God's presence when I do this particular ritual. Do you want to know what draws you to closeness to God than any ritual you could ever do? The direct obedience to the commandments he gives us. When a situation arises that maybe you had an opportunity to take something, not necessarily walking in and stealing something. I'll give you an example. I've shared this example before. Like one time I went into a store and we were apartment looking. We sold our first house and we were moving into an apartment till we got where we're moved to now. Now I went in and got those free apartment guides like they have in the quick markets around here. And in one of those was mixed in with this little bitty book that was 99 cents. And it was like one of these where everybody kind of like put, things for sale in it, and like a local trader little thing. And it was mixed in there, and I'd picked it up by accident, and I'd gotten in the car and I was going through and seeing what I had. And I saw it was most people think, 99 cents. Nobody can worry about that. And I had been studying the laws of theft at the time so that I would have a little more understanding. And I saw that, and I went back in and I put it back on the rack. And on my way out of the store, I was thanking the Creator for leading me into the knowledge of theft. That I caught myself. I didn't do it by accident. I didn't do it on purpose, but I caught that, and I was able to stop it. And I was thanking the Creator for showing me his way in this manner. It's at those moments when you are really close to the Creator, when you're in a situation to observe his commandment, his will. That is just there. Some people want to say that, I can get in praise and worship, and I can get in prayer, and I can do this, and I feel close to God. You're not as close there as you are as when you observe one of his commandments because he said so. And then you thank him for that, and thank him for showing, because we were talking about this, you'll make known to me the path of life. And that is a path of life. That is the closeness of God in all his ways. And desire for closeness, it says, and not desire the closeness to the lust of the evil inclination. Therefore, the sages have explained that the Torah directive is to cleave to God, means that one should cleave unto the holy Torah sages, where he will thereby create an environment for himself that is conducive to influencing his character in the righteous direction that we have described. And this is a new concept for us, cleaving unto a Torah sage. I actually, even though I understood this, I contacted my teacher about this a couple of weeks ago when I was going through this, because this is something I had learned several years ago in that other path. And so I say, okay, one of us of the nations I mean, I understand this. This is a very deep, deep principle for our Jewish brothers and sisters. But I said, this was the first time I had read that it was advice for us on this side of the fence. And so he was explaining it to me. And I say, I understand that. It's just like, I glean, you've heard me say before, I love Rabbi Hirsch's teachings because the way he breaks the Hebrew down and he gets into things, I really connect with him. Others connect with Rashi, others connect with Rabbi Singer, and I also connect with Rabbi Moshe Shulman and Dr. Shulman. Those are two others that I can contact personally. So I've connected myself to Torah sages, people who know the Torah. And I can ask them questions and they help me cleave to God. They help explain these things. And then when I go and do them, and then this is an act, is how we cleave to God, is going to his people who he said would be the lights of the nations. But, it's sometimes I know this is hard for some. And the observance of these commandments is so important because it's not religion. It's the reason why I went back to the king of Israel. He had to have 2 scrolls to keep himself in line with God. He had to have those 2 scrolls. It says 2 things: that he would fear God and that he wouldn't be haughty, thinking himself as a king, that he was greater than any other Jew, any other Israelite. His Torah, the second scroll of Torah kept him from being haughty and thinking more of himself than what he was, because he was king, and kept the fear of God in him. Our commandments can do the same thing. When we look at, that we do not take anything that, anything, we don't take away from our fellow brother. We do not reduce him in any way. And the theft, we don't reduce in his property. We don't take it, and we don't reduce in making him a smaller person, because then you're stealing from him, and also you're murdering his character. This is how our Torah can keep us from being haughty to the rest of humanity, and also in the fear of God, knowing that what we've learned here, that if we can take and look at a recording of Laura and Hardy back in the black and white TV days, how much greater can the Creator not even replay to us even our thoughts when we go before the heavenly court? If we can record people's actions, people's words, people's deeds, and have them on record for hundreds of years now, how much more the Creator who made us? Because that is a flimsy, doesn't even meet a hair to what he can do. And we talked about that. So it's not about rituals. It's not about religious acts. It's not about being religious. It's not about being sanctimonious. It's not even about being holy. We're to be righteous. We're to do what is right and to live according to what we are supposed to be with. That's the reason why I say I love what Rabbi Moshe of Corbin says right here. What is truly difficult, the most difficult thing, is to reach the level of a human being. And we see what's going on around the world today. We see how difficult that is. If, on the other hand, he decides to cleave to people who are hedonistic, immoral, that is the direction to which his character will be drawn. Likewise, it is said about the knowledge of God, and you shall know today, and take to heart that Hashem is God in the heavens above and in the earth below. There is no other. The goal of this intellectual comprehension that God enjoins upon us is to fix a love for him in one's heart. For all of a person's actions, for all of a person's actions are drawn by his heart's emotions. A person will always be quick to do what he loves, and he will withdraw from things that he fears. A person does not experience love from something unless he is yearning for it and wishes thoughts. It is and wishful thoughts of it are filling his mind. Likewise, one does not experience fear of matters unless his thoughts compel him, either out of fear or of danger, or of exposing something that he is ashamed of, or from the presence of something of greater or higher honor. The awe that motivates respect and bashfulness. I am going to go ahead and read that thing from Proverbs. I'm going to close on this, because it touches this a little bit. Because we're talking about moving away from the things that, we've heard, to put away wickedness and to cleave unto God's commandments. And in Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 26, and I probably want to bring some more about this later. I'm not going to go into a lot of it right now, but this is something I've been actually looking into for the last couple of days. Proverbs 4 and verse 26, weigh the course of your foot and all your ways will be established. And I like this right here that the Vilna Gaon says. The Vilna Gaon derives character traits into two categories: inborn traits, which are referred to one's way. And it says, and acquired traits, which are those, for they have become second nature to a person through habit. When correcting a negative trait acquired through habit, which we all have done that. We've all got these things we're all working on personally. That's kind of built on itself throughout the years. When correcting a negative trait acquired through habit, the person is advised to remove it gradually from his nature. And I love this. Scotty, you're going to like this analogy. Those of us who's worked in construction and done things like this and has actually used this particular tool called the plumb bob. He says, where the plumb bob must be moved slowly in order for it to reach its destination, so too a person must train himself gradually until the desired trait becomes second nature. He should not swing suddenly to the extreme, because you will fail. So think about that. If our life is like a plumb bob, if you've used a plumb bob, you know what you're trying to get a certain point. And generally, when you go to move it in place, it's swinging a little bit, and you've got to let it come to a stop to where it's supposed to be. If you move that plumb bob over here, it's going to swing like a pendulum, and you're going to be waiting a while. But if you slowly move your plumb bob into place, it's going to slowly line up. And I love that analogy of correcting our ways, because I wasn't taught this. And there's things I've struggled with all my life that, you want to quit cold turkey. But yeah, here's the advice coming from the great Torah sage, Vilna Gaon. It says, where the plumb bob must be moved slowly in order for it to reach its destination, so too a person must train himself gradually. So don't get, again, Genesis chapter 4:7, where he says, if you improve yourself, you'll be forgiven. But if you don't, so improving yourself is a slow process. It's not overnight. So don't get upset with yourself. If you want to get yourself lined up straight like a plumb bob, you got to move slowly. If you don't, it's going to swing like a pendulum. You're just going to go back and forth and never reach the destination. I read that this week. I just had to share it. Scotty. All right. Anything, Scotty? I know we covered, got a little bit further down the road in our book.
No, everything is good. Everything is good. My grandfather said about the plumb bob. He said, if you've got a point in the sky you want to get to, and you want to know where it's at here on the ground, it takes time and patience to move that plumb bob to find the exact level point.
Yeah. And, here the great Torah sage says that about correcting our character traits.
Yeah.
Is to be like that plumb bob. You've got to move it slowly.
Yeah.
And I read that here about 2 or 3 days ago, and I even took that to work with me. So when I had some time in the afternoons, I would sit and I just read that over and over again, because it just, see, again, for me, I said, when I do that, I talk to God about that. I'm like,
yeah.
Wow, this is cool. All right, Scotty.
All right, Terry. Great class. Thank you so much. I say that you just don't get home and open up the books and start that. It's from a week's preparation and more than that. It's from the deep read and study, and able to know where you're going to go with it and pull it out. So thank you so much, Terry. Thank you so much. So we didn't have a lot of activity tonight, but a lot of people were giving mind-blowing emojis. I hope that's what that is. I hope that's a mind-blowing emoji. If not, they'll have to text me and say, no, that's not what we're talking about.
That's not what we're.
Yeah.
Kind of like the TV commercial was that for, parents learning how to do, the emojis and the computer thing. And they said, you don't do that. You're sending all of that. Well, that's what that emoji means. Doesn't goes, oh no, not the way you're using it. Doesn't.
I'll have, we're living in the age of text now. I don't know why, people just don't call and hear the vocal, the tone of voice. If you don't know the person, you really don't know the tone of voice they're sending you this text in. But in my line of work, doing maintenance on low-income housing, I'll have people text me something, and are they mad? But anyway, they put all these abbreviations and emojis, and I have to ask Siri in my phone, what are they talking about? And Siri will have to translate, and then I'll try to translate and send a message back that they won't think I'm an old fogey. You know what I'm talking? So, I'm trying to catch up with the world, or the world's trying to fall back to me one. I don't know which it is.
Hey, that article that Pesach sent out this last week, where you could actually listen to it.
Yeah.
Did you listen to, because I listened to it, and I'm like, then you listen to that, I guess that automatic reader thing.
Yeah.
And it's trying to read some of the Hebrew stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's mixed in with English. And then I'm sitting there going, if somebody heard this and didn't know what was going on, they would think it's cussing.
Well, my reader was the same as me. It had Hooked on Phonics. Now, those of you that don't know what Hooked on Phonics is, you can go back and look it up. But I had Hooked on Phonics. So I can't read, I can't spell. So, but I can talk. That's what my grandmother said. She said, you can't spell, honey, and you can't read, but man, you're a talker. So, okay, Terry.
I do have one of the things I want to share, if everybody don't mind.
Okay.
It's not about the class tonight. I did want to share what I got in my message box this morning. I sent it to Scotty, then I sent it to our teacher in Israel and said, okay, is this fake news or is this real? And his reply was, no, this is real. It's actually been going on for about a year. The talks. Some of you may have seen this. If not, this is really some fascinating information that I did not know was going on. That there are some Italian parliament leaders have been in Jerusalem and have been discussing and wanting to return all of the temple artifacts that was taken away from Israel 2,000 years ago, as you see that's pictured on the Arch of Titus. And when I saw that this morning, I said, what? And so I sent the article to our teacher in Israel this morning, and he got right back with me. He says, no, they've actually been discussing that for about a year now, that has actually been going on, that Rome wants to return all of the temple artifacts that was stolen during the Roman campaign of Israel that happened 2,000 years ago. This event happens. There's going to be some interesting things that's going to happen on this planet. My feeling.
Yeah. All right.
It's interesting.
It is. It is. It is. I can see Veronica in her
Van.
In her minivan camp thing there. So where'd she go? I lost her. Oh, there she is. There she is. So
she's jumping around.
Yeah, Veronica is traveling the world. She was putting pictures on for a little bit, and she'll put some pictures on just to say where she's at and traveling and all that good stuff. So if you're not, do you put them on Simply Noahide or just on your personal?
Typically, I just put them on my personal one, unless it's, something that I think would be beneficial for a Noahide. But yeah, mostly on my personal page.
Okay. All right. I love them. I love them. So I'm waiting till the I can tell this area. I'm waiting till I can see, like the Kentucky and then on down in Tennessee state line and so I'm waiting so patiently. So all right. Well, everybody do what?
Yeah, may I quickly say something?
Yes.
Yeah. Terry, much of what you've told us, it's afternoon here actually, this afternoon, it has blown my mind. Coming from a Christian background, I realize now that becoming a Noahide means I will have to totally change my way of thinking. And so what you've told us has really been very, very helpful indeed. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And like I said, it's a Torah worldview. Like I said, everybody has different worldviews and their environment impacts that. Well, one thing we've never learned is the Torah worldview. And you're not really becoming a Noahide, even though that's the modern term. You're becoming a human being that you were meant to be.
Sure. It actually, what you've told us now makes it easier to start living the lifestyle that is expected of us. Because when you come from a Christian background, you're part of a group, part of a system, where there is singing, where there is praying together, where there is doing stuff together. When you follow this path, suddenly you're on your own. And in the beginning, I thought it'll be a very lonely, very difficult voyage, but I start to realize it's the opposite. And that's thanks of the type of things you are telling us. And other people that are telling me and teaching me that, it's becoming quite fulfilling.
Yeah, and see, you left the bubble. Like me, I grew up in a particular bubble. I left that bubble and joined another bubble. And then I started to join another bubble. And then the Creator popped the bubble. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And it does tend to be alone. But one of the beautiful things is like, some people of this is in various religions, regardless. I'm not going to call no names. It's in various ones. It's like when you're in that religion, if you're not like me, you're not a part of me.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter if what religion. There's most of the religions in the world are a lot like that. So you have people who leave the religion, gets disfamilied and owned, and they're thrown out on their own. But the Creator shows us that doesn't have to be. You know where He shows us that? Again, with Noah. When Noah, a righteous man who was moral, who walked with God. Now, Noah, take your sons and your wife, your sons' wives and your wife and go into the ark. None of them were deemed righteous or moral. He did not have, God could have took Noah and created a woman on the other side and restarted humanity again. He could have, but he didn't. He took a righteous man and his not so good family and put them on the same boat. So that doesn't mean you have to get rid of, you've got people that's in your family that doesn't line up with you. No, they're your family. Stay connected.
Right.
And so, see, all the answers are there in Genesis. I told my wife before I started this path, before I even knew it existed, when I was totally in one of those other bubbles, and I started studying Genesis 4 chapter, I call the conversation with God and Cain. When I started studying that, I don't know why I did. I just did. I even studied it out of the Bible I used to preach out of. I told my wife when I was walking out the door one day, I said, I don't understand what I'm about to say, but I said, the answer to life is in the book of Genesis. It's there. I know it is.
Yeah.
And it is. I found it. It's amazing.
We do need each other, because if I hadn't listened to this session, all of you have told us, I would not have known.
Oh, we do need each other. We just don't have to form a bubble.
Absolutely. No.
We can just be family. We can just be family. Just invite us over for supper.
Yeah.
All right, Scotty, you got it.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna make our descent. We thank everybody for tuning in with us tonight. Those of you in Power Faith Radio, those of you in our Facebook pages, Simple Walk and B'nai Noach Fellowship, and especially those of you in Outreach Noah. We thank you so much for coming and spending time with us, or maybe you're watching the recording. We want to thank you in advance now for taking the time to watch that recording. Give us some questions, give us a thumbs up, and share those videos with all your social media platform, and we'll greatly appreciate it. You can send us an email. Just send that email to outreachnoah@gmail.com. All right, Terry. I'm just going to close it and say we will see.
We'll see y'all next week. Hashem willing.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.